while you're looking for your husband or wife, chances are that you're going to go through a breakup. That's going to be part of your process. You should probably just get ready for that. Most likely it's going to happen. There's a few lucky people who that didn't happen to. But most likely you're going to have to go through a breakup. But I'm telling you this because I don't want you to get discouraged. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it's going to suck. Yes, you're going to wish it had never happened. And I'm going to eventually get to the good part. The good part is all this pain doesn't have to be for nothing. So welcome back to Relationships Ain't Easy. This is part 2 of how to break up. Not just break up anyway, but break up in a healthy way. What I want to do is, if you go through a breakup, which most of us have to and most of us will go through, I want you to know that all that pain, you can actually use it to help get you closer to where you want to be. You can actually get closer to having your future husband, having your future wife. Okay? So this is part 2. In part 1, I explained, first of all, that you can do this. You can turn something that's horrible into, or you can make the best out of it, we'll say. You can't really turn it into a good thing, but you can make the best out of it. And I was explaining that there's a process to it. Okay? There's a right way, there's a wrong way, and then there's a process. And the process is going to look a little different for everybody, and there's different steps to that process. The first step was having a grief time, a time to grieve, or a grieving time. And so over on that topic, I wanted to explain something because I got some feedback. That said what I was saying, or at least the way that I said it, didn't come across the way that, that I meant it. And so I'll explain. So in the episode before, and if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. I'll put it in the description. You should watch part 1. But I was talking about, for me, when I was going, I went through a breakup, and I gave myself 1 week, and then in the last episode I said, maybe max 2 weeks you should have for grieving, right? And then you go on to the next step of the process. So the feedback was that made it seem like you have 1 week or 2 weeks, and then it just, you snap your fingers, and then there's no more like sadness or emotions or anything. You just moved on. And so I want to explain that. It's not what I meant. When I say grieving, this grieving period, what I mean is when you go through the breakup, there's going to be lots of emotions: mad, angry, sad, you're confused. You're going to go through a lot of emotions. So what I'm saying, what I'm calling the grieving time, is you're going to give yourself a week, maybe 2 weeks max, to just completely experience those feelings. Like, if you don't feel like talking to anybody, then you just, shut yourself in your house, or if you got roommates, into your room. If you don't feel like going anywhere, don't go anywhere. Now, go to work. Okay? I'm not trying to tell you not to go to work. I mean, if you got PTO, I guess you could take it off. But I'm just saying, like, if you don't want to hang out with people, no, we get it. If you want to watch sad movies or listen to sad music, cry yourself to sleep, do all that in this 1 to 2 week period. So feel all those feelings there, like, to the max. Okay. But then after that set time, then it's time to start saying, okay, when I'm feeling these feelings, I'm going to start, finding ways to change my mood, right? Finding ways to work through this, finding ways, I'm going to start working on my mental health, because, like, you're sad, or if you're close to depressed, like, especially the longer you've been with that person. And if you love that person, it's going to be a lot to go through. So I'm not saying, 1 or 2 weeks and then it clicks and then you're just good. No, I'm just saying 1 or 2 weeks to allow yourself just to feel everything. And then after that, you go through and you're like, okay, now I need to start the process of, I need to get over this. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. And I just want you to know there's going to be some up and downs. There might be 1 or 2 days you feel good. and then be a day you feel bad, and then it'll be 2 days you're good, and then you'll be feeling bad, and then so it'll probably be like this those first month or two, but then it should start getting back to normal. You know what I'm saying? It should be a little bit more good than bad, and like this. This is what you want to do. So it'll be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. So I think we all get it. Okay. I'm not saying your emotions magically just disappear. That's not what I'm saying. So let's talk about, what we're trying to do on this. So we've grieved. So now what's the next step? Well, the goal of this next step is for you to become a better version of yourself than what you were before, or when you were with the person before. Now, that's broken down into some other steps too. So the first thing you're wanting to do is what we just talked about. You want to get back to your normal. Okay. And a lot of these things in this step are going to kind of be happening simultaneously. But for time's sake, I want to just try to talk about them one at a time. And then again, there's probably going to be a part 3. So you're wanting to get back to normal. A lot of times if you date someone, and especially like for me, let me just tell you what happened to me. I was dating someone. I dated them for a year plus. And so I did a lot with them. A lot of my free time was spent with them. A lot of the things I did, going to the movies or whatever, it was done with them. So now that you're going through this breakup, you don't have them anymore. So it's like, what do I do? It's like you gotta figure out who you are again by yourself. And you have to learn to be content with that. Like a lot of times people, and this is actually, and I'll tell you this is one of the things that I dealt with. I realized that after I broke up with this person that I prioritized them too much. It should have been God, then the mission he had for me, career, stuff like that. And then they could be somewhere in that mix, because we're not married. When you're married, it's a little different. It should be God and then your spouse. But we're not married. We're just dating. I put her too far up the ladder. Excuse me. So one of the things I realize is now I'm having to learn again how to prioritize first God and then just me, just things that I need to do. For me, it was getting back in shape, just a lot of stuff. I have another podcast all about the things that I did to get through, and I'll probably go over a lot of that in the next episode, part 3. But the whole point is to learn how to get back to being, you. So for me, it was going through things like I was going to church alone, or realizing that, I need to go to the grocery store. I could go by myself, or if finding a way to be comfortable going to the restaurants and stuff like that alone. And it was tough, man, because I remember, and it's the funniest thing. For some reason, after the breakup, it was like I felt like everyone knew that I just got out of a breakup. Like strangers, just I could be out at the mall or whatever, shopping, or just, and somehow they just knew. But that's ridiculous, but that's what you feel like. And it was this process of, okay, I can be content with just being me and Jesus. I don't have to always have someone around. And it sucks because it's like it was someone that you cared about, right? And the more you care about them, the more the breakup's going to hurt. And so it's like you feel like there's all these thoughts that you're going to have to wrestle with of, why did they leave me? What's wrong with me? And it's common for people to think like, oh, is someone going to actually like me? Like, am I going to be able to find someone? And so there's all these things. So a lot of times it's easy to be insecure in that time. And so I think building that back up, and again, it's a process of being secure in who you are. That's a healthy way of doing it, because what you don't want to do is try to go through this as quickly as possible. You skip a lot of steps and you're still insecure. And insecurity can show up in many different ways. You can be like real distant from them, and or you can be someone who's real clingy. It's, those are just two extremes that show up with insecurity. So you want to make sure you get over this. And that's why you want to do it healthy. And so it's this process of just figuring out, who am I now? A lot of my identity was wrapped up in this person I was dating, and now I don't have them anymore. So who am I? You know what I'm saying? And I think that is one of the key steps that you need to go through. That, you need to ask yourself, who am I again? What are the things that I like to do? What hobbies do I like? Where am I going in life? What are my goals? What are my plans? What's God called me to do? Who's my community? Things like that. Like, find yourself again so you can be whole. And sometimes the pain of the breakup is what can wake us up to that. And that's why I say, even though this can be a painful thing, and it can, let me say it again, even though going through these breakups can be a very painful thing, it can actually be something that catapults you or pushes you forward or even closer to actually finding a husband or wife. So, if this has been helpful, let me know in the comments. Of course, subscribe if this is your first time. Like the video. If you have questions or something wasn't clear, let me know in the comments. And I've said this a few times, and I'll keep saying it. If you want to send me, if you have questions about something that's not even on the topic that I'm currently talking about, but you want to hear my take on something, anything about the dating world and relationships, let me know. The best way to probably get me for something like that would be Instagram. So you can do @relationships ain't easy. There's no apostrophe in that. And just DM me, ask me your question, say, I'd love to hear you talk about XYZ, and I'll shout you out if it's a good one, and I'll make a whole episode about it. And but if this has helped you, if someone's going through a breakup, and you want to see them get out of this healthier, stronger, and better, so that they can move on and then find a healthier relationship, send them this link. All right, that'll be a great help to me. And yes, there will be a part 3, so I will see you next time.